Because this video is going on YouTube, I have to say the vaccines are safe and effective and follow all of the rules from the WHO.
Is seemingly miraculous. I mean, how is it possibly working on all of these various elements? And this is what's causing a lot of the people who were skeptical of ivermectin for COVID, for example. You know, the same, what is it about this drug that is seemingly miraculous? I mean, how is it possibly working on all of these various elements? And this is what's causing a lot of the people who were skeptical of ivermectin for COVID, for example. You know, the same group is like, oh, now it's just a wonder, and now it's curing cancer. Like, sure, guys, sure. So I guess how is this possible? What is this drug?
You know, it's a really fascinating drug. It seems to be very versatile. It's got numerous mechanisms of action on the molecular scale. It is an antiparasitic. That's what it was discovered for. That's what it was designed for. But it has antiviral activity. It has antimicrobial activity. It has anti-neoplastic or anti-tumor activity. In cancer itself, ivermectin has over a dozen mechanisms of action, and they're still discovering new mechanisms of action as they study it more. I did not know that ivermectin had such versatility and that it was possible to use it in cancer. And you only discover this when you dig into the research. When you dig into the peer-reviewed research, you find there are over 300 peer-reviewed studies that have been published with ivermectin and cancer, looking at the mechanisms of action. How is it doing what it's doing? It's acting on molecular pathways inside the cells, pathways that affect proliferation of cells, replication of cells. It can act on mechanisms of cancer metastasizing, for example. It blocks certain enzymes that detach cancer cells, that allow cancer cells to metastasize and spread to other parts of the body. It blocks the production of new blood vessels for the cancer, something that the tumor uses to grow, because the tumor has to have make its own blood vessels to be able to grow, and ivermectin blocks that. It goes after cancer stem cells, and cancer stem cells are notoriously difficult to kill. In fact, they may be the reason why chemo is not curative, why the majority of chemo is palliative, is because chemo will not kill cancer stem cells because they don't replicate quickly. Chemo's killing cancer cells that are replicating quickly, and yet ivermectin is able to identify those cells, recognize that those cancer cells are different from normal cells, and is able to kill them or inhibit them. So new mechanisms are being discovered all the time, and it is a wonder drug. I really don't say that lightly. I don't say that about very many drugs, but it seems to be one of these wonder drugs.
So when it was discovered, it was the scientist who discovered it won a Nobel Prize, right, for this discovery. And this was how did he discover it? Like, is it something that's made in a lab? Is it something you find out in nature and then you kind of compound? Like, how is it discovered?
It's a compound derived from soil bacteria. And so it is something that, was found in nature, and I believe it's modified. It is modified in the lab, but it was an incredible discovery. It won the Nobel Prize. There's been 4 billion doses given, and I think this is
4 billion.
The demonization of ivermectin is such a ridiculous thing, because it is a drug that had an amazing safety profile over almost 4 decades of use in humans, up to 4 billion doses. This is not a veterinary drug.
Safer
this is
than
not
aspirin.
A horse dewormer. This is a drug that's been used around the world. 4 billion doses given, 15 times safer than aspirin, 750 times safer than remdesivir, and 17,000 times safer than COVID vaccines. Now, where am I pulling these numbers from? This is actually from safety reporting systems. This was published in Alberta by the government COVID-19 task force, which was tasked with reviewing the pandemic. And so they looked at the safety profile of ivermectin and found it to be safer than aspirin, and much safer than remdesivir or COVID-19 vaccines. So it was
Remdesivir
demonized
gives
for
you
a
renal
reason,
failure.
and that reason was because it worked. And that's usually what
And
happens.
and it's very cheap, right? No one can make a lot of money off of it.
Exactly. Well, no one, Pfizer had over $100 billion in revenue from COVID-19 vaccines, which were approved only because there was allegedly no treatment for COVID-19. And
right.
You can only have that if the actual treatments that do work are completely demonized and really not allowed to be used. I mean, we had an unprecedented situation where pharmacies were refusing prescriptions from doctors and were acting as physicians. These pharmacists were acting as physicians illegally, preventing these prescriptions from being filled. And now we're finding out that they were paid to do so, that there were billions of dollars that were spent to block ivermectin prescriptions from being filled all across the United States. In Canada, we have doctors who are being stripped of their medical licenses and are being penalized tens of thousands of dollars for prescribing ivermectin for COVID-19, which you don't even have to do because it's a low dose. Most people got their ivermectin, from somewhere, whether they got the actual horse paste or whether they got the pills or they got the pills from India. It's one 12 milligram pill or two 12 milligram pills to treat COVID-19. It's nothing. And yet doctors were being stripped of their licenses just for prescribing it. So it was an absolute ridiculous situation that we had really not seen in medicine before.
Stunning new information just in. Former acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York,
Kim Iverson, is a great reporter. But remember, this is going on YouTube, so I have to say that vaccines are safe and effective, and everything they were saying there was untrue.